Good morning, Chavra. We're going to start with counting the Omer. Today is the second day of Sivan, and the last night we counted 46. So let's say together on page 139. Together, Hayoim, Shisha, Va'arbaim, Yoim, Shehem, Shisha, Shavuos, Va'arba, Yomim, La Omer. Today is 46 days, which is 6 weeks and 4 days of the Omer. Shavuos is coming up real fast, Chavra. Speaking about Shavuos, speaking about the giving of the Ten Commandments, the Aseres Dibros, they were given on the luchos, the tablets. And in today's lesson, we talk about the second Beis Hamikdash that did not house the luchos. The Shechina resided in the second Beis Hamikdash in a lower form relative to the world level. We're on page 85 in the Chayenu for the second day of Sivan. So yesterday we talked about how in the first Beis Hamikdash, the luchos with the Ten Commandments engraved in them were housed in the Holy of Holies, and that was mamish a leapfrog Shechina, which did not come through the whole Seder Shtalshlus, the whole order, and there was a tremendous amount of spirituality dwelling in this world in the Holy of Holies in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So after the first Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, now we had the second Beis Hamikdash. We did not have the luchos from Hashem that was given to Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai. And therefore, post-temple, now today, the Shechina is manifest through what? Through the study of halacha and performance of mitzvahs. So let's back up. In the second Beis Hamikdash, in which the ark and the tablets did not rest, these being among the 5 things found that were in the first Beis Hamikdash and were not in the second. Amru Rabbi Seinu Zechariah Livracha, our sages have taught Shaloi Haisa Shechina Shayra by Perush Madrega Shechina Shahaisa Shayra B'Bayis Rishon Shaloi Kederech Hishtalshlus Olamos. A rabbi said that the Shechina did not abide there. It didn't mean it didn't abide there, Chas v'Shalom, but they meant it didn't abide the way it did, the way it rested. The Shechina rested the way it rested in the first Beis Hamikdash. And it was this level that did not abide, meaning the Shechina that came straight from Hashem, that circumvented the entire order. It was this level that did not abide in the second Beis Hamikdash, but only you could put the candles out, like with your hand. Yeah, perfect. Okay, absolutely, anytime. But on a lower level. Ella, Babai Sheni Haisashari Kederech Ishtalshalos, Vislabshus, Malchus Datzilus, Malchus Debria, or Debria, but Malchus Dietzira Behecha Kachigadosh Dasia. So the first Beis Hamikdash, there was a quantum leap around the Seder Shtalshalos. But in the second Beis Hamikdash, the Shechina abided according to the order of gradual descent of Malchus of Atzilus, vested in Malchus of Bria, and the latter later in Malchus of Yitzira, and later on in the Kodesh HaKadoshim of Asiya, that being the Chachma Bina Das of Asiya. The Kodesh HaKadoshim da Asiya hayim islabish, the Kodesh HaKadoshim Shabbat Beis HaMikdash Shalamata, the Shor Sabayish Hashchina Malchus Yitzira Hamelubeshes, the Kodesh HaKadoshim da Asiya. And the Holy of Holies of Asiya was clothed in the Holy of Holies of the Beis Hamikdash below. In it rested the Shechina, meaning Malchus of Yitzira, which was clothed in the Holy of Holies of Asiya. Therefore, because the Shechina resided in the Holy of Holies, no man was permitted to enter there, except for the holy priest, the high priest, the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. And since the time of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, of which, of course, the Kodesh HaKadoshim was included in, and Hashem resides in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, where does Hashem reside now? In the Holy of Holies of Torah and mitzvahs. For as we said earlier, the Shechina must reside in the Holy of Holies. So what's the Holy of Holies today? Halacha. Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, has but the 4 cubits of halacha alone. So today, let's not take it lightly. Shavuos, we're going to stay up all night learning. Every day we should be learning. Every night we should stay up all night. But of course, it's a special time to stay up all night learning. And Torah is the Holy of Holies that connects Hashem with the world. So that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the illumination of the Shekhinah, which is holy and separate from the world, should become Baruch. HaKadosh should become Baruch. From the Hebrew word means to draw down. Baruch means to bless, but it also means to draw down. So when we say a blessing, it's dirty. When we say a blessing, we're actually bringing God down into the world. That's the purpose. So even when a Jew sits and engages in Torah study, and of course he has to say the bracha, so he says the bracha, and he brings down God into the world. As it's stated in the first chapter of Brachas, the phrase Shekhinah is with him means that although he's a being, a physical being of this material world, the Shekhinah is nevertheless with him. So what's the level of the Shekhinah? We can't say it's the level of the Shekhinah that was in the first Beis Hamikdash when we had the Luchos residing in the Aron and the Kodesh HaKadoshim. In order of the gradual descent and investment of Malchus of Atzilus in Malchus of Bria and Yitzir and Asiya. So it's inferior even to the indwelling of the Shekhinah in the Beis Hamikdash, an indwelling that did not require the vestment of Malchus of Asiya. And yet it differs from the drawing down of the Shekhinah in the world in general, in which case the identical progressive descent occurs, in that the Shekhinah, which resides in the world, passes through the additional garment of Klippas Nega, while Torah and the mitzvahs do not. So the reason it has to go through Malchus of Asiya is that the overwhelming majority of the mitzvahs of the Torah involve physical action. The Shekhinah, therefore, descends into the level of action, Asiya, as we now will explain. Kitayag mitzvah Torah, rubam kekulam, hey mitzvahs ma'asiyas. Of the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah, many of them involve action, including Vigam, Hatuluyas B'dibur Machshava. Even if we're talking about action, those are also mitzvahs that are fulfilled by speech and thought, such as Torah study, saying the blessing after the meal, saying the Shema, Vigam Hatuluyas B'dibur Machshava, K'may Talmud Torah, Berachas HaMazayin, Ukriya Shema, Tefillah. Again, we've discussed this many times that you have to use the lips and the throat and the mouth and the teeth and everything else when you're saying the words. And even in your mind, there are actions taking place. There's, movement in the brain, even though you don't see it with the physical eye. This is so, even though these mitzvahs involve thought, seeking to grasp the concepts in one's Torah study and to experience the kavanas of the Shema and the prayers as such. And as such, they are not bound up with action. I don't know why it says they're not. Let me think. So you would think there's kavanah and there's words, so they're not bound up with action. Okay, Malan, the hero lav kidibur dami, ve'ena yaitse yedei chavasa behero kavanah lavad. Ad shayitze bisvasav. So if you're only thinking, true, that's not considered full action. It's been ruled that meditation has not the validity of speech and does not fulfill one's obligation by meditation. And kavanah alone, even when his manner of meditation is close to speech, like he's really thinking strongly, as in the case when one thinks about the way in which he would utter a certain word, which is called hirur, until he gives it utterance with his lips, it's still not considered action. V'kaim alone, hakimas svasav have maise. It's been ruled that the motion of the lips when one is speaking is considered an action, in which case all these mitzvahs involve a form of action. The Rebbe explains that the Alter Rebbe will now anticipate the following question. He says it still remains to be understood why specifically the 4 cubits of halacha take the place of the Holy of Holies. And why should this not be so when a Jew studies a subject in Torah which is not halacha? What if he's studying an Agadah or something else? For there too the Shekhinah is with him, no? V'tayag mitzvah Torah im sheva mitzvahs derabanan v'gematria keser shuratzin Elyon Baruch Hu. When we have the 613 mitzvahs, and then we add the 7 mitzvahs of the rabbis, which total 620, that's the numerical equivalent of keser, ground, which is God's supernal will. Amalubish b'chachmasi yisbarech, which is clothed in his wisdom. Thus, in addition to the fact that Torah is God's wisdom, which in its descent in the downward progression of worlds becomes the shrine of Kodesh HaKadoshim for the Shekhinah, there's an additional quality of its being the supernal will, which is even higher than wisdom. And this is uniquely found in the halacha and the mitzvahs as they are expressed as they are expressions of Hashem's will. They, God's will and wisdom, are united with the light of Hashem in perfect union. Further to an earlier statement that Torah derives from supernal wisdom, Al Tabu now say that the oral Torah also emanates from that source. Hashem founded the earth with wisdom. When it said, when we have the pasuk, God founded the earth with wisdom, this refers to the oral Torah that's derived from the supernal wisdom, as it is written in the Zohar. The Holy Kabbalah says the father, Chachma, begot the daughter, meaning Malchus. The oral Torah, as it is written, Malchus, the mouth with which we call the oral Torah. So, the takeaway for today is in the second Beis Hamikdash, the Luchais were not present. But the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies, nevertheless represents that dwelling place for Hashem's energy in a more condensed manner. And since there's no Beis Hamikdash today and no Holy of Holies, where is the Shekhinah to be found? The sages say that Hashem is found in your verbal Torah study. So you think like, I'll read over with my eyes. No, when you verbalize the Torah, you are mamish creating a dwelling place for Hashem, a Holy of Holies, where the Shekhinah resides. Big responsibility, but big opportunity. Have a good day.